The number one mistake I see a lot of young artists make is drawings that are too stiff. Okay, is it the number one mistake? I don't really know. But it sounded cool. Views. I'm gonna help you fix it though. I'll try. Bring your drawings to life. Dynamic, they're capturing a moment, selling the character, selling the moment that you're capturing, all of that good stuff in this video. Let's go. Part of the reason you have those stiff drawings is because maybe you've probably learned how to draw based off of some how to draw videos and tutorials and things like that. And usually those drawings are kind of stiff because they're trying to teach you how to draw the thing first, kind of teach you the basics before you go into the more intermediate, gangbuster, more detailed, dynamic stuff. And by stiff, for instance, say drawing a character head on like this is what you're used to. It's not necessarily a stiff drawing, but like stiff in the sense that it's basic. And this is kind of like what you would have in your typical head on photo ID type drawing, right? You learn how to draw a face and you're learning it from a very basic perspective for the tutorial so you can learn, but anytime you draw a face, you're pretty much drawing it like this in every panel or something similar to this, or you're just used to a very head-on 90-degree angle when putting together maybe panels for your comic or an animation. But you know, normally this is how it would be. And so I'm gonna finish this drawing and do a basic headshot. And what I see a lot in a lot of people's panels and comics and whatnot. So this is your basic drawing, simple headshot, almost like homeboy is at the DMV. Maybe he's talking. Sometimes you can see people try and start from here in this basic way because it's safe and they're not really pushing themselves, or at the very least not pushing themselves yet to do something a little bit more challenging. But let's say we have this as one of the panels in our comic and the character is pointing at someone and maybe you draw the hand over here. Everything is very straight on and maybe he's pointing. So this drawing is very stiff because there's a lot of disconnect with the parts of the drawing and how it would interact with the rest of it. So let's say he's pointing at someone and saying, you know, something snarky, right? To capture the moment, you can't have something this stiff. And obviously this is even assuming you can draw to this level, which honestly, that's okay. It's always nice to go step by step and then you can evolve over time. You just want to make sure that you're making that evolution when the time comes, especially when you're comparing your work to the industry standard, not necessarily comparing your work to other creators, but the industry standard of what's out there. Like what you have is not embarrassing or anything like that. So maybe you're good enough to get to this point, right? But you see a lot of times they'll have their character here and then, you know, maybe they'll have another character in the background, just still very robotic and in the back and simple and whatever, right? This doesn't really capture that much emotion. It is very stiff. Parts of the body are not interacting with other parts of the body in ways that they would if a character was pointing. In many ways, one could argue even what we have right here isn't that bad. And honestly, if you can achieve this, you're headed in the right direction, and you would be correct. But I'm here to make sure that you keep on growing. You keep on keeping on. So assuming this is our stiff drawing, even though it's not that bad, but assuming this is our stiff drawing, what do we notice? Everything is very plus. And by that, I mean, it's just normal and safe and like you learned it from a YouTube tutorial or a how to draw book. Again, it's good to learn the basics, but then you want to keep taking it a step further, right? Everything is in that way. His torso. So this is one of the ways to spot when something is very, very flat and stiff, right? Even my sketches aren't stiff enough, right? Everything is like a very perfect cross. Even the hand over here, at least the fingers underneath, they kind of are, but the first one at least is trying to do something a little bit more dynamic. And one of the ways to make sure things are a lot more natural is for this plus to be a little bit more bent or something. By natural, just imagine you were taking a photo of somebody in their moment, in their element. They're never so rigid unless it's like a photo ID. So if I were to do this again, and let's say I wanted to draw something that wasn't stiff, this is a simple way to look at it for a tutorial. Think in layers. And so let's say for that head, we want something a little bit tilted. Keep track of where the joints are in the body and make use of them. Sometimes you want to give it a little bit of exaggeration, or sometimes a little bit body expression if you can. And it's all trying to capture that moment. So maybe there's a slight tilt in his head and he's like leaning back a little bit because of what he's saying and the type of character he is. These are the things to factor in. And let's say his body, right? Also not as cross. Maybe the body is doing something also maybe in the other way, in the other direction, right? So his body is not even perfectly looking at it. So you want to stay away from absolute perfection. Here, maybe the body's tilted here a little bit. He is leaning back slightly. So he is leaning back. The head is coming back a little bit. He's looking a little bit up, and he's looking a little bit more to the side. Versus here, where everything is so absolute and crossed. Whereas here, the arms maybe would have popped out of here. Now the arms will be popping out like so, where we'll see here, but this part will be a little bit behind, right? We don't get to see that part as much, right? Now I know where the fist is going to be. I'm taking account of where his finger is going to be popping out of. And maybe it's not a perfect hand held like finger pistol thing going on. Maybe his hand's a little bit more relaxed, and I'm going to have that in mind. So something relaxed, something of that ilk. These are all the things that you factor in. And now that I'm doing this, even with the joints, I'm thinking, hey, to make it more organic, maybe his shoulder would be a little higher. So this shoulder will actually come up. This one could be down. And obviously, I don't do all these guideline stuff when I'm doing my drawings. These are things that you keep on doing, you practice, and you get better over time. These are the things that I think about when looking for a more natural pose, a more natural capture and characterization of this character, natural expression, capturing that moment perfectly. There's even an extra step, right, where you're being that cameraman and trying to figure out where exactly we're capturing the character from. Whereas this is head on. With this, a more natural angle would be, the cameramen are not usually the exact same height as the character, or sometimes you want to capture the character from different angles to evoke different emotions. All of these are things that you factor in. But with all that said, now let's see if we can use this to create a more natural, relaxed pose that isn't stiff. You can learn from even more basic and intermediate and expert level classes that focus heavily on this stuff. There are even curated tutorials and classes online to help you further, like on Skillshare, who in fact partnered with me to bring you guys this video. As you guys know, I'm a huge consumer of Skillshare. I've consumed a lot of classes like the one Patrick Brown does that focuses on characters in motion that helps sell that natural, non-stiff, dynamic vibes. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by pros in the industry in comics, film, illustration, cooking, music, you name it. Invest in your goals by starting a learning journey on Skillshare to start that career, skill, or side hustle you've been thinking of. Even if you need help figuring out where to start, Skillshare has designed learning paths that help you get from novice to pro with curated classes edging you towards your goal. The first 500 people to use my link in the description get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Doing so would also be you supporting this channel greatly, as well as you supporting yourself. You do want to understand the basics, but at the same time, you want to also maybe learn other tutorials that try to do more challenging angles. And so you should be able to draw the face from multiple different angles. This one is not that difficult. It's a bit of an ant-eye view thing, but it's not that steep. And here, again, to have it be less stiff, we do a little bit more exaggeration in the expression. Y'all can leave in the comments what the character is saying. Where you place the eyeballs also matters. You can't just have it be normal like this, at least not all the time. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you want to place it somewhere interesting. Maybe he's looking down. And then usually the pupil and iris reflect that. If he's looking down on you, you fool. You insolent fool. Still talking. The ears will be a little lower. Now because the body is turned, the tie really should be a little bit more to the side. One shoulder's popping up, the other one is not so much. Right? Here the hand is going straight, but maybe I do a little bend instead. The joints don't only bend left to right and all of that. They can twist. So maybe he's pointing down. Again, wanted more relaxed hands. Right? We can do whatever we want with the hands. If that's not the way you want to twist in that direction, you can twist in the other. Something maybe a little bit more towards the camera if you want. Everything is not so straight. Like there's also some joint action happening in the fingers. And obviously things like understanding how clothes fold and things of that nature. Those also come in handy. Sometimes the way you shade can also help. Make things a little bit more dramatic if you want to. Is it necessary? Not always. But sometimes it could be fun. And so the goal with making your drawing come across as a whole lot more natural is to go from this to this. Or something like that. This applies to poses as well. You have the simple pose. Let's say the creator is actively trying to do something interesting. So we have simple girl drawing. Even if you have the proportions right, it's still sort of stiff because everything is in the absolute cross. What will be more interesting would be, say, something like so. Maybe tilt it back a bit again. Making use of the hips and the joints in the hips. Maybe her hands are touching behind her back. We can even exaggerate and have her bend over a little more. Everything is very head on, the torso that, the leg that, the leg that. The more you can mix all this up, the better. So here it's doing something like this. torso like that, the legs like this, like that. The more you have going on in a natural sense, the more natural it looks. And everything else you add onto it, whatever the character's expression, capturing the moment of what they're saying, the camera angle you choose, all of that just adds on to the dynamism of the drawing and making sure it's less stiff. Even with this head, you can have more stuff going on, right? We had it doing like this, but you know what? We can have her head turn the other way and do something like that. So at least the whole body is not just all in one direction. The head is doing something different. Again, it's just natural. And sometimes having the drawing in this simple form can make things easier for you to then come in and add in details, which is what I'm going to do, and I'll be back in the video. Your understanding of human anatomy and all that still comes into play. So learning the basics before you try to knock out stuff like this is valuable, but then you have to challenge yourself and not always stay in the safe zone. Basically, you don't want to always draw basic B. You know what I mean? You want to be able to do some interesting stuff too. Like she looks like she's bending down, maybe bending over to talk to a shorter person or a kid real quick, something like that, versus whatever she would be at in the previous pose. I'm bending over, so it's a little bit more in the front, a little more shadow in the front than the back. Once you're able to accomplish stuff like this, you will see vast improvements in your artwork. Just always ask yourself, is this stiff? Am I drawing a basic B? And be honest with yourself. If you're not, you'll never improve. Or at the very least, you improve very slow. For those who don't know, I'm the creator of Apple Black, Volume 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks for the love. Hopefully you guys agreed it'll be valuable to get this kind of content from someone who makes content that you would like to make, I presume. Shout out to those who've gotten everything I have, the books, the t-shirt. You can get this at Hot Topic, by the way. It might be in the store, but if it's not, it's definitely online. And there are other Apple Black shirts Also at Atsuko.com, where I was a model at one time.
You're a natural.
For the 2.5 people that found this video valuable, please like the video, subscribe, do all that engagement stuff, hit the bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything, turn on all notifications. Links to everything you could possibly need will be in the description as well, including all the Skillshare goodies. Watch more videos on the channel and leave comments if you guys have any questions or other video suggestions you want me to tackle. It's White Manga, and I'm Audi 9000.